Welcome to the Sharad Kohli show, where I try and make the complicated topics of economics and finance easy for you. I also keep you abreast with what's happening in the world of economics, business, finance, tax, stock markets, practically everything related to your money. My larger goal is to make sure that if you're regularly connected to this channel, that your income and wealth rises, it increases, or at least try and prevent you from incurring losses because of ignorance of so many complicated topics of economics, finance. So please do subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel of course is very new. I was posting one video a week, and from today, with your blessings, I'm trying to post one video a day. That was one video a week, by the way, until last week. I'll try and bring in more information. So if you're new, I'm sure you're new because the channel is very new. Please do subscribe before you leave. We're going to talk about US dollar today. Who doesn't know about dollar? An international currency, a global currency since 1971 when Richard Nixon was the president. When he abolished the gold standard and brought in US dollar, and the currency has not looked back ever since then. It is going great guns. In fact, it has become so strong that the currency has been a dominating factor for most countries around the world. We've seen countries go insolvent because they ran out of dollar reserves. Let me give you some data in the perspective first. Now, if you see the global reserves which the countries keep with them, about 57 to 58% of the global reserves which countries keep are in US dollars. Second comes euro, which is 20%. The Japanese yen, which is about 5 to 6%, British pound about 5%, and Chinese yuan, very nominal, about 2%. So that's the domination. When countries keep reserves, those are the kind of reserves they keep as far as US dollar is concerned. No match. Euro comes far second. Let's see when international payments happen around the world. You use SWIFT, which is dollar driven mostly. You would be surprised 45 to 50% payments around the world happening through SWIFT are in US dollars. Euro comes far second with 22-23% of the payments happening. Yuan is about 4 to 6% at number 3. Let's take another data in the perspective. Foreign exchange market, that when foreign exchange transactions take place, what I told you earlier was the payments. Now when foreign exchange transactions take place, this Forex market, where currencies are exchanged between each other. US dollar, you'll be surprised, 88% is used for foreign exchange transactions, which means 88% of Forex transactions around the world happen in US dollar. Would you believe that? Well, euro is a little about 31%, yen 17%, pound 13%. We're talking of the total Forex transaction, but 88% is in US dollar. That is the kind of dominance. Let's see when the world borrows, when there is global debt, how does the debt look like? About 50% of the debt which the world has on each other or from wherever is in US dollar. And invoicing which people do, that is the world does. When I say people, I mean world. We are about 800 to 850 crore people. About 8 billion to 8.5 billion people on this earth. And about half of them, or a little more, 50 to 55% of them, they do invoicing in US dollar. Let's come down to commodities. Petrodollars, entire crude oil is traded in dollars. Gold, silver, copper, natural gas, wheat and corn, they are all traded in US dollars across the world. That is one parameter on which trading of these goods is measured in. Now when it comes to central banks, most central banks, they hold their reserves. I'm talking of the reserves which central banks hold. About 90% of those are held in US dollars. That's the kind of dominance which dollar has in terms of reserves. Now, if you see the US GDP, it's about 30 to 32 trillion dollars. It is said that the total global GDP is about $110. $110 trillion. $30 to $32 trillion is the US, $110 trillion is the global GDP. Now you can very well calculate the percentage. About 25% of the global GDP comes from the US. But that's a different story. That US has 40 trillion debt on itself. So in isolation, the number may not look as attractive, but then for the sake of numbers, that's the kind of dominance that US has on the global economy. Now with this kind of dominance, the question which arises in everybody's mind, that de-dollarization, will the world ever be able to get away from dollar? I call this as currency colonization. Just the way countries were colonized earlier, the Spanish, the French, the Portuguese, and of course the British. They used to go and colonize the colonies, countries around the world. India as such was also colonized for good 200 years by the Britishers. Now this is dollar colonization. And this colonization, by the way, is across the world. I just gave you the numbers. Now the bigger question is, will the world be able to come out of this dollar colonization? You'll be surprised to hear the answer. In short term, maybe no, but in long term, yes. Because it is now an agenda of discussion in the fiscal world, in the monetary world, in the emerging economies, that we have to step out of US dollar. Because dollar has been seen to ruin some smaller economies. We saw what happened in Sri Lanka a few years ago. The country was on its knees because it had run out of Forex reserve. We saw in 1990 what happened in India. India had to go and pledge its gold because we had run out of dollar reserves. Well, that is the kind of devastation, dominance, or I would say dependence on dollar can do. But what do you do? Now the question is, if dollar goes, if de-dollarization happens, two things will happen. One, of course, that countries will have to start dealing in each other currencies, and we call it as bilateral currency dealing. We've seen India and ruble, India and Russia dealing in them, and there are many other countries, like for example with India deals in rupee to their currency. But a second bigger reason would be dominance of gold. Well, the gold standard which was there prior to 1971 can come back, which means the strength of a currency of a country would be decided by how much gold that country has. The gold backing, the gold standard, that is being seen as a threat to the dollar. And this is very much in the knowledge of the American government. And because it is in the knowledge of American government, they are trying to suppress gold prices. They are trying to keep the dollar dominance up. But I feel that any artificial effort to keep dollar up, to keep the dominance of dollar up, may not work in the long time, which is why I feel that de-dollarization is eventually going to happen. And this may happen in not too distant future. It may not be happening immediately, but not too distant future. This could be 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, but in about 5 years or so, I do feel that dollar's dominance is going to decline and it will gradually lose its relevance. Well, I'm not sure for you as a person, that is good news or bad news, but for the holders of gold, it is indeed going to be very, very good news, because then gold will suddenly emerge as a global measure of value, which means the prices of the gold and gold related funds and gold related assets or whatever is going to skyrocket right through the roof. So hang on with your seat belts and wait and see as to how a journey of this dominance of dollar goes forward, for how much time does it remain, and what happens during the transition period. I'll connect with you again tomorrow with another interesting concept of economy, business, finance, tax, stocks, anything related to your money. Until we meet again, see you and goodbye.